Hey guys, hope you are doing well. It's Rashid Hashmi from Doctors Digital College. Here you will get video lectures for O and A levels of Cambridge Assessment International Examination, IGCSE, GCE and Edexcel boards. We'll also include lectures for F.Sc, metric and entry-test for different subjects. Hope you will enjoy it.
Welcome to Doctors Digital College.
In this lesson, we will study that how much total energy is produced as a result of aerobic respiration in terms of ATP. What's the overall efficiency of cellular respiration, living system of the cellular respiration? What is the structure of ATP energy? Why is ATP called energy currency? And what are different uses of ATP in the living systems? In previous lesson, we studied that ATP energy is produced by two different ways. One is called substrate level phosphorylation and other is called oxidative phosphorylation. Let's see how much energy in terms of ATP is produced. If I write here the stages of cellular respiration, which we have devised for our easiness, that they are: number 1, glycolysis. Number 2, it is link reaction. Number 3, it is Krebs cycle. And the number 4, it is electron transport chain. Now let's see what are the products of glycolysis link reaction in terms of energy. In glycolysis, we consumed 2 ATP. So I'm writing here minus 2 ATP. And we produced here overall 4 ATP. And along with 4 ATP, we also produced plus 2NADH2, reduced form of NADH2. And in link reaction, there was no consumption of ATP energy, there was no substrate level phosphorylation, but there was the production of 2NADH2. Keep it in mind that I am writing this energy budget for 1 mole of glucose. And in Krebs cycle, there was no consumption of ATP energy, but there was the production of 2 ATP from GDP. There was the net production of 6 NADH2, reduced form of NAD, plus there was 2 of FADH2. Now, let's see how is the total energy calculated. If we go to electron transport chain, energy in NADH2 and FADH2, it will be converted into ATP by oxidative phosphorylation. So let's see what is happening here. That we have consumed overall minus 2 ATP. We have produced overall plus 6 ATP. This is substrate level phosphorylation. And for oxidative phosphorylation, we got 2 into 3 ATP here. We got 2 into 3 ATP here. We got 6 into 3 ATP here. And we got 2 into 2 ATP here. So the total ATP produced through oxidative phosphorylation is 6 plus 6, 12, 12 plus 18, that is 30, and plus 4, 34. So we have got 34 ATP, moles of ATP by oxidative phosphorylation. So if I write here as sum total, means if I write, it is here in the form of total, that this is here 6 minus 2, 4 ATP plus 34. This is overall 38 ATP. So theoretically we have produced 38 ATP moles from 1 mole of glucose. But as I said that about 32 ATP moles are produced in real. This is the real. This is theoretical one and this is the real one. Actually what happens, about 25% of the energy, 25% of the energy is used for the transport of materials into the mitochondria or out of the mitochondria. You know that pyruvate will move into the mitochondria, and ADP and inorganic phosphates, they will move into the mitochondria. NAD and FAD from glycolysis, they will move into the mitochondria, and oxidized form of NAD, they will come back into the cytoplasm to be used in glycolysis once again. So for the movement of all these chemicals, about 25% of the energy is used. Okay, now if we see what is the overall energy efficiency, means how much efficient our living system is. What does it mean? That what is the total amount of energy in 1 mole of glucose, and out of that total amount of energy from 1 mole of glucose, how much energy is harvested through the aerobic respiration of cellular systems. So by calculating it, this comes about 40 to 41%. How could we calculate it? This is here energy efficiency. I write here energy efficiency. That will be, if ideally we are taking 38, there are 38 ATP, and for 1 ATP there is about 30.5 kilojoule per mole energy, and this is here the total amount of energy in 1 mole of glucose, that is about 2778 kilojoule per mole energy. Okay, if I multiply it with 100 to calculate the percentage of energy, then this comes about 40%. Means 40% of the energy of glucose is harvested in the form of ATP, and about 60% of the energy is converted into heat. What does it mean? Is the living system of cellular respiration less efficient than the non-living systems of automobiles? No, actually it's not so. That when we are calculating the energy efficiency of automobile engines, the human-made engines, we are calculating the work done in terms of the distance covered by some automobile per consumption, by the consumption of per liter of the fuel. In that system, in that energy efficiency of the automobiles, we are not calculating the maintenance of the automobile. But here in this case, overall maintenance cost of the body, of the living systems of the cells is also involved. Means, and another reason for this is we need a lot of heat energy for the maintenance of our body temperature. Not only this 60% of energy of the glucose is converted into heat to maintain our body temperature, sometimes energy present in ATP is also changed into heat just to maintain the body temperature. So living systems are definitely more efficient than non-living systems. Now let's see that what is the structure of ATP molecule. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Okay, and this is one of the nucleotide, and this nucleotide is RNA type nucleotide. What does it mean this is RNA type nucleotide? That this has ribose sugar in it, and as from its name it's clear that it is adenosine, mean the nitrogenous base attached in it is adenine. So let's see what's its structure. This is here ribose sugar, whereby this is present only in RNA, this is not present in DNA, and with its carbon number 5 there are 3 phosphates attached, while here with it With this ribose, there is nitrogenous base adenine attached. Adenine is a double ring structure. You may not be memorizing the whole structure of adenine because it's a complex structure, and if you draw it simply like this, that one 5-cornered ring and one 6-cornered ring is there, then even this is sufficient. And with this ribose sugar, there are 3 phosphates attached. This is one phosphate attached here. With it, there is another phosphate attached here, and with it, another phosphate is attached here. Okay, and these phosphates, these 3 phosphates, they are called high energy phosphate bonds. And they are giving, if this bond is broken down, this is giving us about 30.5 kilojoule per mole energy. Okay, so is the energy given out by the second bond breakdown, and the third bond is very rarely broken down, and it will be giving a lesser amount of energy. But in most of the cases, we are breaking down this first bond, the high energy phosphate bond. Now ATP is considered as energy currency. Although all the other nucleotides, they are also having 3 phosphates attached with them in their free form. All the 4 nucleotides of RNA type, UTP, ATP, CTP and GTP, they have the same amount of energy, and all the 4 type of nucleotides for DNA type, ATP, GTP, TTP and CTP, they are also having the same energy, but ATP is considered as the energy currency. This is most commonly used in all the chemical processes wherever energy is required. During DNA replication or during transcription where RNA is being formed, ATP energy is not used, rather energy present in free form of nucleotides is used. Their phosphates are broken down and their energy is used. What's happening? Actually, we are doing this process. ADP is joining with inorganic phosphate to make ATP, and then ATP is being broken down back into these products. This is use of ATP and this is production of ATP. Production is during respiration, and when we are consuming, as I am speaking at this time, I am consuming ATP energy, and here what I am doing, actually I am breaking this ATP into ADP and inorganic phosphate, adenosine diphosphate, into this part and one inorganic phosphate, and the energy given out in this process is used for different processes, such as I am using it for mechanical energy. But the question is, why is ATP acting as energy currency? One thing is, ATP is used as a source of energy in all the living systems, right from bacteria to human being. In all the cells it is being used. And this also indicates that there is a common origin of the living systems. Now, there are some basic characteristics in ATP because of which it is called energy currency. First of all, you should know that what is meant by energy currency. Currency is anything which can be used readily for different purposes. Say for example, this pen has some value, but this value is at maximum known to me, or it is known to the merchant where it's being sold. The value of this marker may not be known to you. So if you will try to use the value of this marker for different purposes, say for example, you want to purchase one cold drink with this from this marker, you may not be able to get the cold drink or some drink. Why? Because that merchant, that selling person of the drink might not be knowing the value of this marker. But you can use the value of this marker, first converting it into currency. You will sell it at some proper place, you will convert it into currency, and then that currency can be used for different purposes. So is here, there is energy in carbohydrates, in proteins, in lipids, but that energy cannot be directly used for a variety of functions in our body. So first of all, it is converted into ATP. Now, why is ATP only? Why only ATP? Actually, ATP remains inside the cells. cell membranes are impermeable for ATP. ATP is such a big structure that it cannot come out of the cell membranes, and use of ATP is only within the cells. ATP energy is not used out of the cells. That's why it remains confined inside the cells. Okay, one thing is more, that when ATP is converted into ADP, an inorganic phosphate, as compared to other processes, this is most energy efficient. Means it will be giving lesser amount of heat energy out of it. So this is more efficient. This is also water soluble, so it can move within the cell easily. It can go into the mitochondria, it can come into the cytoplasm or into different other cell organelles. Okay, so these are the reasons why ATP is used as energy currency. Now let's see what are different uses of ATP in the body of some living system, such as a human being. What are its different uses? Number one, ATP energy is used for active transport. Active transport is the movement of materials by the use of ATP, independent of concentration gradient. If there is some living membrane, if something is moving in this direction into the cell, or if something is moving out of it, but along with it there is the use of ATP, then this is called active transport. It can be from higher concentration to lower concentration, or it can be from lower concentration to higher concentration. But whenever ATP energy is used, this is called active transport. Actually, what happens during active transport? There are transmembranal proteins present on the surface of membrane, like this. And with them, specific chemicals are attached and they are moved from one side of the cell to the other side of the cells. Now, how are they moved? This transmembranal protein or trans protein, it changes its configuration, it changes its shape. From one shape to the other shape. When it will change the shape, it will consume ATP energy. For the movement of this type of the protein, ATP energy is used. Say for example, there are sodium-potassium pumps. When sodium pump will attach sodium with it and will throw it out of the cell, for this movement of the sodium, there is the change in the structure in the shape of this protein, and then for this change of the shape of protein, there is ATP energy used. Now, the second use is muscular movement. Muscular movement is when the muscles are involved in some movements. You know, in the body of modern organisms, such as in human being, there are three types of muscles. One muscles are those which are attached with our bones. These are called skeletal muscles. Others are the heart muscles called cardiac muscles. And the other muscles are there which are in our internal organs, such as blood vessels, lungs, or the kidney. They are called smooth muscles. In all of them, the basic mechanism is sliding filament. That there are contractile proteins which are sliding over each other. If you might have studied the contraction mechanism of skeletal muscles or the striated muscles, you might have seen that actin and myosin, they interact with each other like the cocking up of a gun. They cock up like this and then they tilt back. When this activated, the head of actin is activated to get attached with this myosin, there is the consumption of ATP energy. As soon as there is ATP used up, this head will be removed after its tilting. So whenever there is the movement, such as I am speaking, or some heart is working and some blood vessels are making pulses, or the lungs are expanding, anywhere in our body, whenever there is some movement, there is the use of ATP energy. Now, in this movement, we can also include the movement of cilia and flagella. In our breathing system, there are cilia present. Certain microorganisms such as Euglena, Chlamydomonas, they have flagella with them. Certain bacteria, they have cilia attached with them. These cilia, they are moving like a whip. And this whip-like movement is with the help of contractile proteins. There are, you might have studied the structure of cilia or flagella. Inside it, there are 9 double peripheral tubules and 2 single central tubules. 9 plus 2 arrangement is there, which is not present in case of prokaryotes. These contractile proteins or microtubules, they will contract for the movement of cilia and flagella, and during their contraction, it is just like muscular movement, ATP energy is used. So for all kind of movements, ATP energy is used. Now, the third category is production of heat. This is entirely different category than the previous ones. As I am speaking, heat is being generated. I am using ATP energy to produce mechanical energy, to convert it into mechanical energy for the movement of my muscles. But along with it, heat energy is being produced. This heat energy is not sufficient to maintain the body temperature. So in our liver, there is a lot of ATP being broken down just to produce heat. Similarly, if we are feeling cold, ATP is broken down to produce heat. So one use of ATP is just to produce heat. Okay. Now another one is bond formation, or you could say anabolism. Anabolism is the synthesis of certain compounds, such as amino acids are joined with each other during translation process or protein synthesis inside the cells. When amino acids join with each other, there is the consumption of ATP. On ribosomes, 2 amino acids are attached on 2 transfer RNA. When peptide bond is formed, 1 ATP energy is used. Similarly, when amino acid is taken up by transfer RNA, there is the use of 1 ATP energy. So overall, transport of amino acid to the site of protein synthesis, and then to make the peptide bond, overall 2 ATP are used for the formation of 1 peptide bond, or overall you can say for the attachment of 1 amino acid. Similarly, glucose molecules, they are joined with each other to form glycogen, such as in human being, or starch formation, such as in plants. This is also anabolism, and for this process there is ATP energy used. But you can see that I have not written here catabolism. What is catabolism? Catabolism is the breakdown of certain things, such as if I am eating something in my mouth, carbohydrates are broken down by saliva. Now this saliva is not using any ATP energy for this chemical digestion of the starch into maltose. So is in the stomach or in the large intestine, small intestine. Different enzymes are working in the cavity. They are not working inside the cells, and they are not using any ATP energy. But once these enzymes were produced inside different cells, ATP energy was used. And that was not catabolism, that was actually anabolism. Synthesis of enzyme was like the synthesis of protein. So enzyme production is using ATP energy. Now, there is another category sometime included, such as conduction of the nerve impulse. That when some nerve impulse is moving from sense organ towards CNS, or from CNS towards effector organs, there is the use of ATP energy. But for me, this is actually like this. What is nerve impulse? If you have studied what is nerve impulse, actually this is electrochemical gradient, electrical potential gradient across the neuroedema, across the cell membrane of neuron. And the disturbance of this electrical potential gradient is called the nerve impulse, the generation of the nerve impulse. And the nerve impulse generated at one point will induce a similar disturbance to the next point. So no energy is actually being used at that time when the nerve impulse is moving. Actually, for the maintenance of resting membrane potential of the membrane of neuron, there is the use of ATP. And you know, how is that resting membrane potential of the membrane of the neuron is maintained? That is by the active transport. Sodium is being pumped out of it and potassium is being pumped into it, so that outside of the neurulema is kept positive and inside of the neurulema is kept relatively negative. This is called resting membrane potential. To maintain this resting membrane potential, ATP energy is being produced. And this is just similar to that of active transport. And when nerve impulse is being conducted, there is no use of ATP, because resting membrane potential is just disturbed by the stimulus. And the disturbance at one point will cause a similar disturbance to the next point without any use of ATP energy. So we should not say that for the conduction of nerve impulse ATP energy is used, but actually for the maintenance of resting membrane potential, which is actually required for the conduction of nerve impulse, ATP energy is used. So rather than to say for the conduction of nerve impulse ATP energy is used, I should write here that ATP energy is used to produce electrical potential gradient. Or simply, I can say that this is used for electricity generation. Okay. Similarly, electricity generation is there in some other animals which are producing electric discharge, and whereby ATP energy is used to generate similar electrical potential gradient, which is accumulated, its voltage is increased, and then they cause electrical discharge such as in electric rays. And similar to this, ATP energy is used for the process of bioluminescence. Means they are producing light. Certain organisms are producing light. Biologically, some light is produced, and that light production is by the production of some specific chemical by the use of ATP energy, which is giving light. Thank you for watching this video. Hope this topic is clear to you and you would like to have many more similar lessons of other subjects and as well as biology by subscribing my channel Doctors Digital College or by logging on to www.doctorsdigitalcollege.com.